Hey guys, Ben Labadie here, and we just had a little bit of a glitch, but we are back, and I have my special guest, Art Stirling, with me. Art, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Okay, so a little background here. Art and I have had a couple battles online and social media here and there. We've always been good friends for a while now. I think we first met each other, you were at the Children's Treatment Center.
That's correct.
And I was doing youth runs.
That's
and,
right.
You brought us together, and we raised some money for the Children's Treatment Center and got youth more engaged and active. So it was some really kind of fun runs. We did the reindeer run, we did the glow run at night. So we did a lot of fun stuff. The Easter egg run, I think we did.
Yes.
So it was really cool what we did for youth to get them active and people out there. Hey Ken, how you doing? So just to start out here, and don't be scared to hit that share button, let other people know that we're on here. Don't be scared to ask questions. We're here to ask you questions, Art, so I don't want people to be scared to do that. So first of all, a little bit about you. You were 8 years on council, and you really led up, or a big part of the animal shelter locally right now. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a Chatham-Kent boy from right from the start. Grew up on a family farm out near Rondeau. Went to school in Blenheim. Got a degree in journalism from Ryerson. I was one of the come back to CK people that even predates the whole program Come Back to CK, but came back. Worked in agribusiness for 23 years in marketing and government affairs, public affairs, and then have spent 8 years on municipal council in various roles on council, including 4 years as budget chair, and also have done a fair bit of charity work, including the animal shelter. Yeah,
so I've always seen your name in the papers, always seen you everywhere. We have a couple things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a little bit more about that animal shelter.
Sure.
You know, as well as I wanted to touch on amalgamation at one point, some job creation and issues facing our municipality. As well as I want to touch up on what you think is a good connection between municipal politics, provincial and federal, how they kind of tie in together. But with the elections coming up, you see people put their name in every year for councillor or mayor. And what is the biggest shock? Because you've actually ran in, won, got in. Okay, what is the biggest shock? What is the biggest change that goes from I don't know anything about being on council to being on council? What's your first kind of shock there, or kind of something that surprises you?
Well, it's a tremendous learning opportunity, and I certainly would encourage anybody who is interested in trying to certainly try to get elected to council. You learn a lot about the community. You learn a lot about your own leadership and communication styles. You work with a lot of great people. I think the biggest shock is probably, quite often people come in and they've got this idea that they're going to make this change, that change. You're one vote of a council of 18, and you've really got to work with people. You've got to advocate for positions, some people get frustrated because they don't feel like things are moving as fast as they'd like them to move. But many things that happen at the municipal level happen for a reason. Sometimes it isn't always clear to the average person what that reason is. There is, we are governed by the Municipal Act, and there are a number of rules that we have to play by, and not every issue is as cut and dry as a lot of people would like them to be.
Yeah. Hey, Stacy Rubansky, how you doing? Marjorie, how you doing? Marjorie's going to be on here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. That's going to be great. And my mom, she always says hello. My number one fan, my mom, Margot Labadie. Thank you for saying hi, Mom. When you're on council, is it harder than it kind of appears? Because people think, it's 1 day a week, you occasionally pick up a telephone or something like that.
Right.
Is it harder than that, right? Because people think it seems to be easy to do.
I think various councillors approach it differently, and some approach it more like a full-time job. There's certainly a lot more to it than I think a lot of people realize. There's a lot of reports to be read. There's a lot of meetings in your ward. You serve on a number of committees; those take time as well. There's a lot of preparation work that needs to happen. You're advocating on behalf of constituents for this problem or that concern in your ward. You're meeting with the members of staff trying to solve people's problems. That's really what a councillor is a problem solver for the people that they represent. And you can certainly make it a full-time job, even though it's considered a part-time job at the moment. And some councillors I do know approached it. When I was on council, I put an awful lot of hours. I was working full-time as well, but I put in an awful lot of hours because it's an important responsibility, and the people have entrusted you to do the right thing on their behalf. Mm-hmm. And you can't wing it.
Yeah. Okay. So, hey, Jeff, how you doing? Hey, don't be scared to hit that like button. And please, if you guys can, hit the share button. And if you have questions, feel free to ask them. Because when you're talking to us and engaging, it actually helps us with the flow and everything. And it helps other people get more comfortable with actually talking about stuff. So, talk to us about the animal shelter. I gotta be honest, I don't know a whole lot. I know animals need help, and then that usually happens. But for the most people, if you're like me, you just think that stuff just happens and it's already in place.
Sure.
But what's all behind that? Like, what has to happen for that to happen?
Well, it's a municipal responsibility, animal care and control, and we have had an animal shelter, as you know, on Park Ave. For a number of years. I think the existing shelter was built and opened around 1974. It certainly was not built to last this long. It wasn't built to handle as many shelter animals as it has. And it was never built to meet, and these keep changing, but the animal care and health standards that we must adhere to. So we've talked about replacing that structure. It was really starting to get quite deteriorated. We've been talking about it for, at least on council, I know the last 12 years it's been a subject, and it certainly has been a concern. The state of the building was a concern prior to that. And, it is a municipal building. It's owned by the people. And a group of concerned citizens, I guess, of the community, chaired by myself and Marjorie Crew, decided 4 years ago that if we couldn't get the provider to pay for the building, and if the municipality didn't want to pay for the building, then maybe there was another way, and that was to reach out to the community, because we know that there's a lot of animal advocates in this community. And so we raised about 40% of the money that we needed to get the project done. Council has generously more than matched that, but it's a rather unique public-private partnership, because there's very few municipal buildings where you could get the community to support 40% of the cost of that building, and there will be a lot of interest over the next little while, because there is a sod turning, shovel in the ground celebration on Friday.
This Friday?
This Friday.
Okay.
And so the public will start to see the excavation and the construction happen. It's going to be right behind the existing building.
Okay.
The existing building will continue to service the shelter until the new shelter gets open. We hope to have it closed in before winter sets in, and we hope to have it ready to finish up and open publicly early in the new year.
Awesome. Hey Gail, how you doing? Gail Scott says hi, Art, and Karen Herman, she's looking forward to attending the sod breaking of the new animal shelter. So that's a lot of excited people about this, isn't it?
It's been a long time coming. The community has wanted this for a very, very long time, and it just seemed to some projects take longer to percolate.
You don't have to tell the people of Chatham-Kent that projects take a long time. I think everybody can agree to that.
Well, this one's we've only been working hard at this for about 4 years, so that's not bad. That's not bad.
4 years
about the term of one council.
Yeah.
So
4 years is pretty good nowadays. Okay, so let's talk a little about issues facing the municipality with elections coming up. One thing, a hot topic, we'll throw the hot topic out here, is foreign trips. Okay, foreign trips. Now, a lot of people look at that as foreign trips, but really it's an investment or a marketing strategy to try to create business in our area. And a lot of people kind of get a little bit, they're unaware. They just think people are going on trips.
Sure.
But they're not seeing any results. They're not seeing a return on investment as in a big ticket item, like a big job creator. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to that a little bit on what you feel about the foreign investment, about trying to attract, because I think that's something that we should probably always be doing, trying to attract, but going and spending the money and investing to attract that. Are we doing it the right way, or what's your opinion on that?
Well, I think that, for starters, we all need to keep in mind that the foreign direct investment trips were only one strategy in our economic development toolbox. Our staff and council work hard at making sure that we are supporting the existing businesses that we have in Chatham-Kent. Helping to keep them, mm-hmm. helping them grow where they want to grow, and clearing away any regulatory hurdles or issues that they may have with other levels of government, and trying to bring partnerships together so that we can make our existing industries flourish. There's that, and certainly that's important. We've got the foreign direct investment piece where certain markets are targeted. I think it's important to realize that getting a Mazda plant or a Honda plant or something like that in the community is really like winning the lottery. Right. And it's not going to happen every day. In fact, it's rarely happening once a decade anymore. So you're out there competing with every other municipality, with every other level of government to try to attract investment. It's a very competitive field. It's very difficult work for our economic development team, and we want to diversify the local economy. That's important because we can't rely. We've got a fantastic agricultural sector. We've got still have a vibrant, although smaller, manufacturing sector. Mm-hmm. We've got some high-tech companies, and we need to continue to diversify our local economy. And the economic development team, along with the mayor's office, have tried to target businesses in those sectors that we want to see grow, like mm-hmm. the greenhouse industry, for example. Right. And there has been, I know the report that council is reviewing. I know that there's some numbers in there in terms of the return on investment. I don't have those numbers at the tip of my tongue, but there is a return. There are examples where jobs and investments have been made in Chatham-Kent that might have been made elsewhere. Mm-hmm. If we hadn't have been engaged in that activity, and bear in mind that every major municipality is engaged in some form of outreach to the community, international community for business investment.
Right. Awesome. Hey Liz, Liz wants to know, do you know if it's a local contractor building the new shelter? I don't know how that works. How does that work?
Yes, we had a competitive bidding process, and the firm that won the work is Agri-Urban Buildings.
Okay.
So yes, it's a local Chatham-Kent contractor.
Awesome. And Stacy, you're loving the Pearson Spector Lit shirt. If anybody's a fan of the show Suits, Pearson Spector Lit was a law firm in that show. And we're getting all lit up here, Art.
I see that.
Okay, so let's see. What do you think is the number one issue maybe facing the municipality in the next 4 years? Let's just take the next 4-year term that people are going to be doing. What do you think is one of the major issues facing our municipality?
I think we still have to do a tremendous amount of work in the area of economic development, and fiscal responsibility. I think are probably the biggest areas that we need to focus on over the next 4 years. We've still got parts of our community that have not felt the economic rebound that other parts of the country have felt. And so we've got to continue to be diligent in terms of making sure that the tax dollars that are collected are spent responsibly and effectively. And so there's still a lot of work to be done in that area. I think that when I was on council, one of the things that we did was we instituted a regular review on all municipal services and programs to make sure that they continued to be sustainable and that they were still relevant. I think that more of that kind of work is going to have to be done going forward, because I think the public has reached the point where they're angry about hydro prices, they're angry about general tax levels, they're angry about gas prices. I think people have reached a boiling point when it comes to the amount of money that they feel that they can afford to support all of the institutions that we support. So I think that that's going to be a major focus over the next 4 years for the new council, and as I said, economic development is important as well. We have this issue of whether we move forward on a multiplex or a sports twin pad or whatever. I know
triple pad, twin pad.
Soccer. I know you're quite engaged and enthused in that issue, Ben.
And so is Daniel. Look at Daniel Brusso wants sports complex.
It's going to I think take a fair bit of focus over the next term of council. We're going to have to wait to see what happens with the provincial government, the new provincial government, and what kind of fiscal restraint, we'll call it, that they bring in. And so whether or not there's going to be dollars available from senior levels of government to do anything remains to be seen. I know that the federal government has been slow at trying to get their infrastructure programs up and running and get the funds that they've earmarked out to projects. So we'll have to wait and see whether some of that can flow towards this project, because certainly at the budget numbers that have been thrown about as possible costs for the project, it's not one that the municipality can go alone. The taxpayers, we're not in a position to be able to afford it, so we've got to have the senior levels have got to come in with at least 1/3 funding, and because we don't even have what I would call a very significant industrial base in terms of corporate sponsorships. A lot of arenas have that kind of revenue stream as well. So we're going to have to, I think that's going to be an area where there's going to be a lot of consultation with the community. There's going to be a lot of work to happen there. Yeah,
because it's a hot topic. I love the idea, but there's a lot of people that are 1,000,000% opposed to it. That gets us to, a project like that, you got to deal with, you got to work with the provincial government, you got to work with the federal government. How does council go about that? How does the mayor go about that? What are those relationships like, and how do you build them stronger? Because, you do have to communicate, but nobody knows how that kind of works. Everybody feels that everything's so distant. Is it that distant, or is it really closer than most people think?
It certainly helps when the members of the higher levels, provincial and federal, the local members, are members of the sitting caucus, the government. We've been in an uncomfortable situation where for a while now we were offside, so to speak, on both the federal and the provincial government. So that makes it a little bit difficult, especially when it comes to talking about these kinds of funding decisions, right? But I think now that we've had a change provincially, at least, we will, I think, see maybe a little bit more engagement between the mayor and council and our local members, because certainly they take on a greater role and a greater prominence once the Doug Ford government is sworn in.
Okay.
So, but the municipality is a member of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, any number of associations that in specific fields like the Economic Development Council of Ontario, and all of these, like every municipal department has specific associations that they might engage, that staff might engage in.
Yeah.
So we've always got contacts going between the federal and the provincial government, between council members who attend these conferences, speak with ministers, speak with deputy ministers, or staff that are constantly monitoring and working within their own fields.
Right.
If there's some specific issue that comes up. It's an important topic. We don't really have a dedicated resource within the municipality to work on this. I did government affairs for DuPont Pioneer for a number of years, and it's difficult to know all of the issues. It's difficult to know all the players, and so it's an area where we're continuing focus, and I don't know quite if we have enough within the municipality right now.
Right. Okay, moving on here. Hey guys, I see there's a good amount of you guys out there. Why don't you hit that share button for us? The more we can share this, the more other people can kind of get engaged and participate, maybe ask some questions. I'd like to see you guys also. Don't be scared to ask questions. Don't be scared to say hi. And don't be scared to hit that little like button or the love button. I know those buttons are there, and I know you can touch them if you can. Hey Samantha, how you doing? We're going to move on to casino, okay? We got to touch on it. You know I love gambling. You have called me a gambling addict at points because I always say, hey, let's put our money on the line to go along with our ideas. And it's not as bad as my brother Bob, all right? But that's where we're at. What do you think about the casino? What do you think it's going to do for the community? Is it going to be net positive, net negative? Is it going to create jobs? And is it also going to maybe create more opportunities for other things to be built around it, like a sports complex? Yeah,
it certainly gives us the opportunity within Chatham to have an entertainment hub.
Yep.
And that's something that, we've got a lot of the pieces, but they've been sort of spread all over the place. And I felt sorry for the community of Dresden, but you kind of could see the writing on the wall on that one for quite a long time when OLG decided to outsource the running of the casinos. And so it certainly is an opportunity to have the casino there. I think that's the right location, beside the hotel, beside the convention center, and potentially across the street maybe from a sports complex. So that certainly would be an exciting undertaking over the next few years to see that evolve. I think it has, we don't have quite enough hotel space, I believe, in this community. That's one area where I think we're lacking. And but certainly another hotel or other restaurants or whatever could develop around that hub.
Yeah.
And but that's speculation at this point. The casino's a go, and I think it has the potential to attract more people. Dresden was a little bit out of the way for a lot of people, and I think this has the potential of attracting more people, both from within Chatham-Kent, but certainly from beyond Chatham-Kent. And it's one more magnet to attract people off of that 401.
Yeah.
And that's something that Chatham has always struggled to do. It certainly provides us with an opportunity to package it with other things like the Capitol Theatre or charter fish trips,
right,
or fishing chips or whatever, right? So, I think there's a tremendous marketing opportunity with this whole thing.
Awesome. We got 65 kilometers of 401 that we got to try to bring some of that money into the municipality while people are driving through. That brings kind of like another topic of, since we're talking about the 401, possible overpass, Queen Street. I know it's been talked about for years, and there was a project a long time ago, and probably never really we're going to see that happen. What do you think about that? Would that be a good thing, or just go with what we have on the Bloomfield exit and the exits we already have? Or would that be something that could be pursued? I know that would probably we'd have to pay for that totally, I think.
Well, I remember, if Marjorie and Karen are still on, they may remember as well, but I think at one point the MTO said that a project like that would cost about $24 million and that the municipality would be on the hook for it all. Mm-hmm. They consider Chatham well served by the exits it currently has, with the population base that we currently have. And so I think it's going to be very difficult for us to convince the province, especially if they start trying to reduce the, some of their expenditures. And also, if it's coming along at the same time as perhaps adding another lane both ways on the 401.
Yeah.
So there may already be, in the future, a significant capital investment from the MTO into our area. Yeah. So I think that's going to be very difficult to sell. And I suspect that now the cost is probably a lot higher than it was then. Yeah. Really the ship sailed back when the 401 was being built, and there's lots of stories about why it didn't happen then, but I certainly think it could happen. I think there's it would have to be no truck traffic, I would imagine.
Right.
Simply because I don't think that's the right way to bring tractor trailers into our community, but. So it certainly, it could happen maybe some point down the road, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Right. Okay, we got one from Liz. Does the municipality have any plans in place to deal with gambling addiction that may become a problem once casino? There's always actually programs in place throughout Ontario all the time for gambling addiction, because that's already in place because of lottery booths that they have at every corner store where you can bet on Proline, Sports Select, and the lotto itself. So there are those programs that are always in place, I believe, and I'm sure they'll have a little ad campaign to go along with that, as every casino does. If you walk into any casino, especially Ontario casinos, it's big. As soon as you walk in, there's a problem gambling spot usually. So I'm pretty sure that is, but again, I don't even know if that's a municipal thing or more of a provincial.
Yeah, I don't think that's a municipal responsibility. I do know that certainly our public health and social service sectors might end up dealing with some of the consequences. Right. I know in terms of the education and the outreach, that is something that OLG is required to do. And you're right, I think they do a pretty good job of communicating that, not just on site at the various facilities that they operate, but also on television ads and magazines and stuff like that.
And Stacey Rabansky, who is a resident who lives on Charing Cross Road, does not support the idea of an interchange, okay? And not for 22 plus million. So let's see here. Anytime you see me touching the screen here, I'm scrolling down to see Karen Herman, a scaled down version could be possible at a lower cost.
That's true.
Otherwise, it is correct to say the MTO has not expressed interest in funding. Yeah. Okay. Another thing that we kind of talked about there, touch on, is population. The population of the municipality, as you know, has been in a decline. Okay, we've been declining, we've been losing people. And I think we're sitting at 102,000 people here. I don't know exactly the number.
Yeah, I thought I saw a slight increase.
Well, I heard a number of 105.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think the census is 102. I think 105 might have been a projection.
Okay.
But what can we do to kind of bring more people back? You came back. How do we get more people back? Right? How do we get this population increasing? And if you guys have ideas on how to increase the population in the municipality, please share them. And don't be scared to ask any questions.
That's a very difficult question. And there's probably not one answer to it. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things we're seeing, the real estate market has been extremely hot as of late. And we're seeing a lot of out-of-town buyers.
Yes.
We're seeing people from Toronto and Burlington and Hamilton and places like that. And of course, a lot of those are active retirees who, see an opportunity to have a high quality of life at a lower cost,
right.
And certainly a lower stress, and get engaged in some of the activities, water activities, for example, that we have around Chatham, Kent. So I think that we're seeing a lot more people coming from out of town, but they're not just retirees. We're starting to see some younger people coming back. They might be people who are coming home to take care of aged parents.
Mm-hmm.
They might be young professionals. At this day and age, you don't have to be in an office setting to do a lot of careers. And so we're starting to see, I think, more and more younger people giving Chatham Kent a second chance, or maybe even a first chance if they're looking for a place to raise their children that's still relatively safe and inexpensive. So I think we're seeing population decline starting to level off.
Mm-hmm.
I think Chatham Kent has been a bit of a hidden gem for far too long, and I know that we've tried to market ourselves certainly as a tourist destination. We've got a lot of tourist assets, a lot of things that can attract people to this community. So it's a slow go, but I think we're starting to turn the decline trend around, mm-hmm. and make some progress, at least stabilizing and hopefully start to grow our population.
Good stuff. And yes, Jeff, I do like the real estate market, but sometimes the real estate market is a little bit tougher when you're representing buyers right now, because when you're representing a buyer, you're going around and you're showing them houses, and then they're all getting eaten up quick and there's not enough of them. So right. It makes it frustrating in a way sometimes as a real estate agent representing buyers, and just when the product's not out there to give them, it's not the best day in the world, and everybody gets a little bit frustrated. But in general, yeah, we do get a ton of out-of-town buyers right now. We got a lot of out-of-town calls looking for single-family homes, but there's also kids actually looking to move to Chatham, Kent with their parents as well. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're buying two houses. So
true.
Yeah. So let's move on a little bit here. Amalgamation's always been kind of a big thing. Now you're from South Kent.
Yes.
You were from Ward 2. Okay. And Big Bad Chatham. And then you got the rest of them. That's what it seems to a lot of people when we amalgamate. And we do have to get over this. Will it ever happen? Do you think, it's been 20 years, and you're going to hear rumblings of de-amalgamation with this upcoming election from some people. When can we finally be as one, and when do you think that will happen?
It's a generational thing. And certainly I talked to my three youngest children, and they don't consider themselves as having been from Blenheim or from Chatham or from Timbuktu for that matter. Mm-hmm. They're from Chatham, Kent.
Right.
They still have to tell their friends when they're, my oldest daughter's at university, and she's still has to say, well, we're halfway between Windsor and London. I think we're always going to have to do that.
Yeah.
But, I think it's a generational thing. I think that our younger generation is not as attached to some of those historical town and city and township jurisdictions as some of our older citizenry is, that I guess you could argue that'll resolve itself over time. But the key thing, I think, is that we are all in this together. We're not going to de-amalgamate. There's just we're too far down that road.
20 years.
And yes, and we've got a tremendous amount of equity built up into this community, and You're always going to get those that feel like they've been left behind, or their needs are not being met. But I can tell you from my 8 years on council, there are tremendous expenditures into every community right across Chatham-Kent every budget year. And I think that people sometimes need to be a little bit more patient and understanding that we do have a big municipality. We do have a number of urban centers, small urban centers. We can't meet everybody's needs in the same year.
Right.
So, there's a lot of, everything from road repaving to playground equipment, everything in between. There's a schedule. And staff have ranked the schedule, and council every year looks at the approved or the recommended projects, whether it's for arenas or for libraries or whatever, and they make those investments every year. So to me, we waste a lot of energy when we talk about de-amalgamating. It's such a negative concept, and at this point what we need to do is we need to rally together, and because we are stronger together, and this community has a lot of positive people, has a lot of positive things happening for it, a lot of good things here.
We even have a positivity debt.
We even have a captain positivity. No, it's I think that we need to at some point we need to get past that, and I don't sense it when I'm out in the communities that I'm out and about in. I don't sense that it's as hot a topic as it was even say 8 years ago or 10 years ago.
Okay. Stacey, thoughts on changing the boundaries for wards who live in Chatham yet vote in Ward 2? I don't know, but do you know anything about boundary change?
I'm not aware of one, but I do know what Stacey's referring to. There is a chunk of what a lot of people would consider part of Chatham. Everything south of Indian Creek Road is actually Ward 2. It's South Kent. Okay. It's the old community of Chatham.
Is that actually on the other side of the road?
Yes.
So one side of the road and the other side of the road is a different...
Yes.
Okay.
And then even some of the outlying Chatham suburbs, such as Linwood Subdivision, is part of Ward 2 as well. So,
okay.
Council has looked at, there was a governance task force. Council has looked at numerous times at, whether it's time for ward boundary changes. The ones that we have, for the most part, are based on history, where Harwich Township was, or Raleigh Township was, and perhaps that's something that we need to continue to consider. There's certainly a lively debate around the subject, as there is with the size of council, and the two kind of go hand in hand. I do know from my experience in South Kent, South Kent is a very, very large geographic ward, as is, for example, East Kent.
Okay.
To remove even one councillor out of those
How many
areas,
councillors is in Ward 2?
There's 3 in Ward 2,
okay.
And there's 2 in say Ward 3, which is the Ridgetown East Kent area. People want to see their councillors. They want to know their councillors. They want to have accessibility to their councillors. It's to reduce the size of council, and then at the same time change the boundaries and maybe make them larger, maybe make them smaller. A lot of it ties into population as well, because you have to have a fairly common level of representation across the municipality, elected official to number of residents. So I personally have very little issue with the way the ward boundaries are right now. I think that it's one of those things where we talk about fixing, but I'm not sure it's broken. And the size of council is there seems to be a natural assumption that if you cut council in half, you're going to have more agreement.
Right.
I don't think you're going to have more agreement, and you're going to have full-time councillors, which come at an expense too, that perhaps might be less connected to the communities that they serve. So it's an interesting area for discussion, and there's been lots, but I think that's also one of those areas where we maybe spend more time talking and worrying about it than it's worth.
Yeah. Okay. Since we're talking about boundaries and stuff for election time, what do you think about voter turnout? Now, I'm predicting a larger voter turnout this time than any time around.
Yeah.
And I feel maybe it's because of social media, maybe it's because of more engagement, maybe it's because more other candidates are creating more energy, I guess. If you've seen Alison Story and Darren Caniff, they both declared for mayor, and they've put on pretty much parties and I haven't seen that ever lately, like for our municipality, for a mayor to run or anybody else. And Randy Hope, I don't think, has declared yet. He has said in the past, I've read in the paper, that he would declare. But do you think voter turnout is going to be maybe the best yet, or what do you think?
Well, we're starting to see voter turnout increase dramatically at other levels of government. The recent provincial election certainly drove a higher voter turnout. The last U.S. election certainly a higher voter turnout. Yeah. So I agree with you. I think we're going to see a higher voter turnout. There's a couple of reasons. One, we tested online voting last time around. I haven't heard that we're not going to be doing that again.
I heard that we are.
Yeah, so I think that makes it a little bit easier for a lot of people, particularly those that might not be that close to their polling station.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I am very impressed at the caliber of candidates that have stepped forward so far in this current election. For mayor and council.
Yeah, well, Ward 6 looks like it's going to be a tough race.
There's a lot of good people running in Ward 6, and so I think that's a sign of the excitement and the enthusiasm. And I think you're right. Different people with fresh ideas, some new blood, could drive much higher voter turnout. Yeah. I think there's a desire, as we've seen it in other recent elections. There's a strong desire for change. Yeah. So I think we may see some surprises when the election happens.
Yeah. Now, from a psychology point of view, when you look at the municipality, look at the energy and what people do, and some of it is when people lose faith in a leader. And I'm not saying the community has, but some people in every community kind of loses faith in their leader. If there is a new kind of leader, whether they're good or bad, does that bring in a new energy and stuff with people, do you feel? And does that kind of move a community forward sometimes, do you think? Because it's looking like it's a possibility that there could be a new possible mayor in the next one. I've predicted it myself, but I'm not going to let you get in on it. But does that bring any new energy, like, to a municipality, good or bad? Like, I
think you kind of answered your own question in that.
I like to answer my own question.
Yeah, there is I think when you get a lot of new people, new faces, fresh ideas, new visions, inspiration, I think that that does have the power of transforming the community and moving it forward. And it's easy to get complacent, and I think sometimes voters in Chatham-Kent and the municipal government in Chatham-Kent has been guilty sometimes of being complacent and too stuck in the status quo. And I think it's really, really important every now and then for a community from a governance perspective to rejuvenate itself. And this seems to be one of those years in one of those elections where there's a chance that there could be significant turnout and perhaps significant change in the results. And I think that would be a very positive thing for Chatham-Kent. I think we need to have the right mix of people. We need to have some solid qualifications of those that we elect. Just being everybody's buddy is not necessarily the right thing that makes you a good leader, but it certainly is something that we need to encourage more people to step forward.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to just kind of wrap this up here. We've been on here for a little while, so if you guys got any last minute questions, slide them in quick. And hopefully we'll have you back during the election or whatever. But we've got one more question there. There's a lot of people that kind of private message me is Art running. Well, what's next for you? Will you consider running again? I think you got till the end of July maybe if you did. But what's next for you? You were successful with the animal shelter, getting that done. Any other projects, and would you consider running again?
I have been actively considering running again. I too have had a number of people who have reached out, encouraged me. A couple of instances almost tried to twist my arm because they felt that I should get back on council. I'm in a different place than I was 4 years ago, and so it's certainly a possibility that I could run again, but I haven't made any final decisions on that, and it's still, as you said, there's still some time to consider it.
And that would still be Ward 2, right?
That would still be Ward 2, absolutely. Yeah. That's
South
Jeff,
Kent. Ward 2. Yeah.
South Kent is my passion.
Okay. Now, your favorite spot in the municipality before we're done. Favorite spot. Where do you like to go? Do you like Erio? Do you like Mitchell's Bay? Do you like Chatham? What's your favorite spot to go and hang out?
I'm really partial to Erio.
Yeah.
I grew up out there. I grew up at Rondo and Erio and that whole area in what used to be South Harwich. And I think that's a little piece of heaven. It's the nature out there is always very inspiring to me, and the vibrancy of the communities, particularly Erio. Not only the vibrancy, but the resiliency and the can-do attitude that the folks out there have, and it's hard not to fall in love with Erio, and that having said that, I've traveled all over Chatham-Kent. I've met a lot of great people. We've got a lot of great communities. We've got a lot of great community organizations. I met many of those when I was chairing the United Way campaign. I met many of those, when I was with the Children's Treatment Center Foundation. We've got a lot of fabulous people in Chatham-Kent, and but everybody's got their little spark.
Yeah,
I feel recharged when I'm out near Deer Lake Erie.
Awesome. Okay, so that's it. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you, Art, for hanging out and answering some questions.
Thank you for having me.
And talking, and hopefully we'll have you back. And also tomorrow, hey guys, Marjorie Crew is going to be on at 4 p.m. with me. We're going to have the same kind of conversation. And hopefully you guys engage in that one as well. And hit the replay button or share button, because you can watch this after. And I'm sure if you got questions for Art, you might be able to put in the comment box, and maybe you'll answer them or whatever. Absolutely. Or private message him. He's in the link here. So thanks everybody for watching. Thank you, Art, for coming on. And again, I will talk to you guys later. And that's about it. So we're going to hit this finish button and call her a day.